Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome.
Hi.
It's Saturday, March 27th, around 1 o'clock. Always a little
A
bit later, but
gorgeous
we're
day in
always doing
Central
stuff.
Ohio.
Oh, I know, right? It's actually really, really nice outside. So if I know that there are a couple of people here and you're outside,
71, I think, is the high.
yeah,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
we've been very lucky, I think, with it being such a nice spring so far. So
Hmm.
really excited for that. Really excited for everybody here today. We've got some really cool stuff kind of going on for a couple of our presenters. Um, and always good to see everybody. This is our GameDev Meetup. We've had this is one of our longest running events. It's our kind of catch up and status of the industry within the Central Ohio Game Dev Group. We kind of showcase stuff from what you all are working on, as well as just kind of like what's going on in your area in terms of game development. So myself, I'm Wesley Adams. I've been working with COG for, I mean, just as much as these guys almost for a while. I've got like a game studio called Multivarious Games that I work with. By day, I do e-learning. I'm more of a designer, animator, a bit of a developer, kind of moving into that too. And yeah, I just work with COG. I love working with you all. So these two guys up here, I'll kind of hand it off. Let's just start with Scott. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Scott. Like you, I have been working with COG for more years than I'd like to admit.
Yeah,
But it's been amazing this whole time. Like to do game development as a hobby and just really focused on helping everyone as a community build games and make games better.
cool. So awesome to see you, Scott. Let's go and hand it over to Caleb and introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Caleb. I have been working with COG fewer years than I would like to admit. uh,
It'll get
but
up there.
yeah, so I'm the noob. I'm the newbie here. But yeah, I'm actually a technical designer at Digimancy Entertainment, which is a sort of local game dev company. It's actually remote and very not local, but kind of from here also. So wherever a remote company is. You have more than one person who works for Digimancy in Columbus,
Yeah,
so
that's
you're
true.
local. That's true. That's true. Yes, you're absolutely correct. And like the CEO lives in Columbus, so I think that
That's
counts.
right.
So
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's all that matters. I mean, well,
yes.
that's the cool thing is like, I mean, you guys are actually hiring. So if there's folks in the channels, there's you guys got a job board that, if you feel like you want to take a gander at that. I mean, if we get a link, we can post it in there. But definitely, we're trying to funnel all these different opportunities together. And Digimancy with George Zeitz, who actually used to work with the folks in Exile Entertainment, um, and they did like the Wasteland series and whatnot. Really cool guy to talk to. We've got a wide breadth of developers within the COG community, whether they're just students in school, kind of looking to see what it's like to get into the game industry, to people who've been in software development or art or design like myself for years and just kind of want to meet and greet and or actually work towards more game development opportunities, whether that's a job or just kind of working at it as a hobby on the side. We welcome everybody, and it doesn't really matter your background. We invite all ages. We work to be, as family friendly as we can, right? So everybody's welcome to join us and get to know us and get to talk to us about like what their interests are and just kind of get to know our group. We've got a lot of veterans, we've got a lot of folks that are new, and we want to kind of like collaborate with them together. Um, so before I kind of dive too much deeper into that, I've got a bit of a slideshow we like to kind of go through, and I'll kind of explain a lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and move into that, but just kind of in terms of the cadence of this event today, we've got our introductions today, and then we're going to move into presentations. And then afterwards, everybody that's on this channel, we invite you to join us in our Discord, which is actually what we're recording in here right now. And we've got a general voice channel that we just like to hear everybody and get to introduce folks and just kind of get to know you. And I always try to get like some sort of question of the day. So you'll see that here in the slideshows here in just a sec. So let's go ahead and switch on over to our news. All right. So, this is actually a picture of a lot of our groups. This is actually, I think, a game jam that we had. So today again is Saturday,
Was
March
that Global
20.
Game Jam 2020? Was that the
Yes,
No,
2020?
nope, nope. Well, that would have been last year. That would have
29
been.
Right,
2019.
but that was before.
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah, no,
see.
you're
Yeah,
right. 2020.
actually, no,
You're right.
actually, well, it might have
I think
been.
it was the 2020. It was the
It,
January 2020
Yeah,
before the pandemic happened.
right
you're right.
before we moved out in March. So, but
Either way, it was an amazing event.
yeah,
It was
so
an amazing event. It was great.
yep. So we do have a lot of folks that we work with. We work out of the Idea Foundry, which is kind of a co-working space. Like the top floor is for like entrepreneurs, new businesses, and technology. The bottom floor is a maker space for all kinds of classes and making, wood shops and laser engraving and welding and all kinds of cool stuff down there too. So it's a really cool space, and we're looking forward to getting back into the groove of things. So yeah, this is kind of a cool picture of us. And kind of want to go over some news. So we are a collection of game developers who want to help others make games, right? We collaborate with a lot of other local groups like CCAD, Columbus State, OSU. There's also different events around us, there's the Cleveland group, which is a great group. They have a meetup page. There is the Cincinnati group, which is actually what's called an IGDA chapter. IGDA, if you're not familiar with them, is like a national, and actually maybe international, but mainly a national game developer group organization that helps game developers from around the nation get resources and get to collaborate with each other a bit more. So definitely Brandon from Cincinnati's great, and there's a couple of folks like I forget Matt and Jared and them in Cleveland. So if you're interested in learning more about these different groups, there's Discords and Facebooks you can go to. We can definitely connect you guys with that, as well as students from universities and colleges. So a breakdown of our events. These are pretty much almost every single month we have these three events. So always kind of see these. And for this month, there it's the same. We don't have really anything brand new. But we do have our three events, which is the second Friday of the month, April 9th from 6 to 9. Again, that's going to be online. These are all going to be online this month, so that is official. Um, and the second Friday of the month is Prototype and Play, where we go in and you showcase your game. We give you a slot in Discord, both a pairing of a text channel and a voice channel where you can stream your content live. And what that does is allows us to give you the opportunity, if you're working on a game or if you're working on something game dev related, whether that's music or art. I mean, it doesn't have to be a game; it could be just game dev related. And it's a great way for people to kind of work in those rooms and talk to you, give you feedback, and just kind of get to know you a little bit more. You can use the text channels to add in information, and we every about a week before, maybe a week and a half before then, we do a shout out in April, and we'll be asking folks if you want to prototype and play channels. Let us know. We'll set you up. We'll get you going. There have been some conversations about working for ways to improve these as an online medium. So we've been having detailed discussions about that. But if you have ideas for that, let us know. I know that Shield today has given us some ideas to think about, so we're trying to find ways to make this more applicable for you. So please let us know. We're excited to make these events better. The second one of the month is our Let's Play. We have a different theme each month. Last month, or I guess this month, I would say in March, it was platformers. Is that right, Caleb?
Simulations.
Oh, simulations.
Simulation
Yes,
games.
sorry, not
Yes.
platformers.
We
I
did
think
do a platform one, but that was a while back.
right, yes. So that was a different one. But yes, simulations. So yeah, so Caleb does those. He helps to coordinate what the theme is. And then in our Discord channel and our Facebook and anywhere else we can post it, we ask you what kind of games you want to play in that genre. So simulations, we played a lot of different types of games. I think it was Kerbal Space Station. Uh, what was another one that we did, Caleb?
We did for simulation. We did Kerbal Space Program and Universe Simulator 2. Sorry,
Nice.
Universe Sandbox 2. The highlight, I believe, for the entire time was a mix between launching a an Earth-sized watermelon at the Earth,
Yeah.
or my antics trying to launch a rocket into space.
Right.
Those are probably the two highlight moments.
So those are always fun, and then what we do is once we get a collection, we actually have a channel in Discord that we get a collection of all your different types of games. Caleb will create like a voting poll, and then you decide on like the top ones. Sometimes it's one game, sometimes it's several games, depending on how long they are and what just kind of makes sense. They're a lot of fun, and it gets a chance to get to talk to you all. And again, I always mention this every time, but if you all want to be a part of those streams, if you want to play along with them, like let us know. I mean, definitely let us know in advance so we can prep you for it and make sure that you've got all the equipment and audio stuff. But we would love to have more people from COG in those Let's Plays just to kind of play along or to get to talk because it's a great way to break down those games. And we'd love to hear what your thoughts are, as well as everybody in the YouTube channel when we're streaming it. What their thoughts are in terms of text. Obviously, no pressure, but if you're interested in something like that, let us know. Would love to have you there. So
Yeah,
that's the
just
third.
Absolutely,
I'll
totally
add
agree.
on. I'll add on to that. So yeah, our goal with the Let's Plays is there's dozens and dozens of or hundreds and hundreds of Let's Plays out there, but our goal is to take a developer perspective to it. Find out what makes it good, what makes it part of that genre. And we are also a community, so we would, like Wes is saying, we would love to have you be participants in that, and at least go back and forth through in the chat for that particular stream. And talk to us about it because it doesn't have to be just our voices. It can be everybody's voices.
Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely. And I would love to get, like, if you saw the simulation one, the way that it worked on the schedule is I had to do it solo. And it's not as much fun for me. It's probably not as much fun to watch, just me rambling into the screen, as to having a dialogue. So we get, two or three people in the room who can talk back and forth about the game. I think that's where the Let's Play experience really shines, at least in the context where we're trying to do it.
Right.
So we'd love to have your voices in there, and it would be an awesome opportunity for you to stretch your game design muscles and be like, okay, well, let's try this, breaking the game down and thinking about its component pieces and what works, what doesn't, and it can be a really fun dialogue experience, learning experience for everybody. So definitely, if you are interested in joining us sometime, you would be more than welcome.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well said. Yeah. And so we'll keep you posted on that. Again, we usually post once that comes up about a week and a half before. We will let you know what the theme is for April, and then we'll ask you what kind of games you like in that, what you like to be seen. And then we will then take that and get a voting poll and have fun with it. So cool. So that's the Let's Play, and then
I do have to say, I'm a little like, oh no, the 18th. That sounds really soon. It doesn't sound like it's very, very far
yeah,
away.
we got really lucky in March because like February felt so late, and then March kind of synced up with February in terms of dates. That's why like they both landed on the 27th for the GameDev Meetup. So yeah, now I think like April's like, hey, we're back. These dates are early. I mean, look at that GameDev Meetup. That's April 24th is the last Saturday of that month. So yeah, we're gonna get early dates. But it's cool, yeah. And I will say like so the GameDev Meetup is obviously a self-explainer of what we're doing right now. You're gonna see a lot of that already. But if you have things that either you want to either be a part of, like these events, you want an event that maybe you would like to see, and even better, if there's one that you would like to even maybe start and create. Like I know some folks have talked about doing tabletop stuff or just having a like a hackathon night or something like that. Let us know and we can talk together and brainstorm it out and love to maybe make it part of that. So we're looking for both like folks that want to get involved as well as like if you once we kind of get through that I'll kind of show you the website, but the website has opportunities for volunteers too. So we're kind of drumming that up again and just more folks that can get involved the better. We'd love to see you guys and try to involve you as much as possible. So but yeah, So that's our prototype and play, second Friday. Let's play is the third Sunday from 2 to 4. Prototype and play is 6 to 9. And then the GameDev Meetup is 1 to 4 on the last Saturday of the month. We have our social media there at the bottom. Our website is brand new. I mean, it's getting to where it's not as brand new, but we started it up, I think, in February, um, during our global game jam event, and
I'm still
then
celebrating it.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool. It's good to have all this information on there. So if you need any information, thecog.com is where to go. It has our meetup page, it has our Facebook page, our Discord page where it says join now, and our YouTube channel, which we'll stream all these videos on, and you can see more of that in there too. So cool.
And I
Uh,
just threw up the invite link for the Discord and the website link as well.
oh, great. Yeah. So if you're in the YouTube channel, you can see all that too. Great. Thank you. So, just as a note, we are like almost 1,900 members strong on Meetup, which is pretty cool. Our Discord is growing, 300. I think it was 318 this morning. Not that these numbers really matter. I think it's more about like what can we do to help you all. But the nice thing is that the more of you we can kind of our goal is to kind of funnel everybody together, the more opportunities we can get. So definitely, if you know someone who's interested in game development, share our Discord, share our website, share our meetup. We'd love to have more of you so we can help more of you collaborate with each other. So our online resources are the YouTube channels, the Discord throughout this entire year and last year, and then officially our COG website is up too. April, we are still observing the state and federal guidelines for social distancing. We're getting close, right? We have had discussions, because we do like admin meetings every so often, because I know that a lot more people are getting vaccinated, things are looking better. But as of right now, April for right now, we're just playing it month by month like we always have been. April for right now is just still all online, just because things are still ramping up and they're going to be ramping up slowly, right? That's kind of like what we've noticed when we looked online and just the amount of people that we could have. So we're still moving slowly, slowly and surely. We've got some ideas in the background. We're not, going to discuss them just yet until they become more finalized. But it's looking good. I mean, obviously, we knew it would be looking good for the most part. At least that's our hope, right? I'm crossing my fingers. You may not see that, but it's looking good, which is great. I know everybody's excited to see each other, and we're doing everything we can to kind of make the online experience as applicable and safe and fun for everybody as possible, and just exciting for everything that you all are a part of. So we'll keep you posted. Definitely check us out in our Discord, and we do have a news channel in our COG website. So as soon as we get more information, trust me, we're gonna market this as loud and proud as we can. Right. So keep posted. We'll keep you guys noted. Feel free to ask us. I mean, you're more than welcome to ask us. Hey, how are things? And we'll give you as much information as we can. As
And
of right now. Oh,
just let everybody know we do talk about it probably once a month. We are taking a look what's going on, and we do talk about it. Just like Wes said, playing it by ear right now, but we'll let you know what's going on.
yep. Yep, and yeah, I know people are bringing up things like conventions and whatnot. Some folks, I know Liquid Shock Games was looking at GDEX. It's still up in the air yet, right? I kind of am a little bit a part of some of those networks. They're still not sure yet. There's no confirmation. But again, like a lot of this stuff, we'll give you as much, we'll give you as much information as we can, and then as soon as we know more, we'll definitely let everybody know as soon as possible. So yeah, good question. And as soon as we know more information about that, we'll keep everybody posted. So, but yeah. In other news, we're constantly updating our event page on the COG website. It's kind of reciprocal to the well, actually, I could probably just show it to you, because I might as well go to the website. So this is our website. It's got a lot of good information about who we are. You can you can let us know if you want to be a volunteer. That just emails us. Some good information. Our social meetup links are up here. So Meetup, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Discord. And then if you want to learn more about, I mean, you can learn more about us. I mean, obviously, we're kind of neat, I guess, but more in that really we just want to make sure that you get a chance to read our code of conduct. Basically, just this means just be friendly. We are trying to be, and we are a family event, so we want to make sure everybody's welcomed. So we're just kind of thinking about like the mom or dad that comes in with their kids, and they want to talk to game developers. Um, we're not going to hark down on things, but just kind of just be friendly. And the cool thing is, like, organically, our group is really friendly. So, and it's thanks to everybody here that we've, been able to grow pretty well and be inclusive with everybody. So definitely check this out just to kind of get more information about who we are and just kind of like just get to know when you're talking to folks and whatnot. Our contact page has a lot of good resources too. This has information about who we are, a lot of really good quick links, our email address. Here's the other groups I was talking about. There may actually be a lot more too. There's like also VR groups. There's actually quite a few of them in Ohio, so definitely check some of these out. This is our, I mean, we're all online now, but this is the Idea Foundry address and just some more of our event information. So you can check that out. News, we just had a release of Global Game Jam and just kind of a live site. So when we start going into person, obviously we'll probably be in here. And then these are just other good resources too. So like our social networks, so good information there. And then helpful links, which we're adding more in here. And then, so I kind of show this a little bit, only because I mean, obviously, you guys can look at this on your own. But what I want you to do is, because we got photos and stuff just of people, if you have resources, if you have photos, obviously, make sure they're work safe. But if you have things that you want to add to the website, you want to modify. I mean, we've got a lot of things in the back end that we're looking to incorporate over the next couple months, years, or whatnot. But for the most part, if you have something that you think would be a cool thing to put on the website, let us know. This we're using Squarespace, so it's really easy to use. We can add things to there, and if we think the idea would help benefit other members, we would love to talk more about it and see if we can add it to the website. So definitely let us know. Just kind of little tidbit about that, and just kind of get you looking at the website. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
if you have a project you're proud of that you're working on, if you have a game that you've released, if you have a photo of you and your team or something that you want on there, let
right.
us know. This is definitely a community site, so we
Yep.
want to include all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be pictures of the three of us on there.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, and now that I'm thinking of it, if you guys have something, I'm just thinking of Chris today because he's going to be presenting something like this. But if you have a Kickstarter event or something like that, we could post that on our news page, and it helps you guys, but also helps the website. And then the more that we get SEO and all that stuff, the more that those things can be more prominent when people search for stuff. So it's going to help everybody else out if you have stuff that you want to showcase. So let us know, and we'll work our best to kind of get those in there. Um, but yeah, so cool. Um, Sweet. So kind of wanted to go over today's breakdown of the presentation. So obviously we have our announcements right now. Shield's going to update some stuff on Stoneacorn. Did I say that right? I think. I know it's kind of changed sometimes, but I think I got that right. So he's got some cool stuff. He's updated his project. He's been updating it quite a bit recently, which should be really neat. And then, of course, Chris, he has a Kickstarter that he wants to showcase called Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. And I'll let him talk about that. So we got some really cool presenters. If you want to present, I'll just kind of showcase this by using our webpage and then go into our meetup page. If you're ever curious about how to sign up for these events, obviously you can just let us know in the chat. You can let us know in Discord. You can let us know on Facebook. But one of the easiest ways to do it is just to find one of these GameDev Meetup events. You can click on it, and then in the description, there is a Google form, right? And then in this Google form, it's just a really quick breakdown of like what day you want to go, what's your name, all that good stuff. And that just let us know that you want to be presenter. And what we'll do is we'll reach out to you before the event. If you're new to presenting, we'll ask to do if it's an online event, we'll do a, a, a testing session just to test your audio and your equipment. And that allows us to get you on to one of these. So So yeah, definitely check that out, and we'd love to have you for sure. And I won't go too more into that, but yep. So we've got our presentations today, and then afterwards, each one of these presenters, excuse me, presenters will have a chance to do Q&A. Yeah, I've just kind of mixed everything up.
That was
Um,
good.
so they'll have a chance that if you're in the chat channel and you want to ask them a question, start writing that down. Scott and Caleb will be in there to kind of capture that stuff, and then we'll give them some time to answer that. And then afterwards, after all these presentations today, we're gonna jump back into Discord under the general chat voice channel and get to know you more. So if you are a veteran and you've been here for a while and you just want to kind of catch up with folks, or if you want to meet new folks, we would love to have you. It's real easy. Caleb put the Discord invite in there, and we would love to talk to you and just see how you're doing. So today's question, excuse me, when we get into networking and discussions, is can digital video games be played outside? Why or why not? Yeah, I just kind of think it's something spring. I'm always like, well, probably don't play games outside because of electronics. I said, but maybe if electronics were safe or there's some way to do it in like an outdoor patio that's covered, would it be beneficial? Would getting more light be beneficial? Would it be bad on machines? Would it be worth like getting them weatherproofed to get outside more, like that kind of stuff? So I'm kind of like interested to see what your thoughts are. Anything spring wise, if you want to talk about it, this is just an icebreaker, but that kind of gets you going. So cool. Well, that's all I've got for our news today. So let me switch back to us. So we're back on live. But yeah, so cool. So that's our news today. If we got more stuff, obviously we'll let you know in the Discord channel. And keep you all posted. Oh, there was one more thing. I know you are waiting on some of you might be waiting on the Global Game Jam stuff. We are working to archive all the channels in Discord. So if you're a team member in there, we've got like a Discord bot that can actually compile those into like an HTML format. We've already done this for I've done this for other channels when I had Dungeons and Dragons going. It was a great way to kind of like encapsulate all these like campaigns or whatever. So we'll work to get download links in there. We'll close down all the channels in the Global Game Jam channel, and then give everybody, like if they're part of a team, a download link to what they need if they want to use it. And we'll keep those up probably for like a year until the next Global Game Jam. So we're working to do that, and then we're also working to get those 2 videos up of the opening ceremonies and the ending ceremonies of the gameplays. So we're still working on that. There's been a couple of things that kind of slowed us down a bit, so sorry about the delay, but we are working on that stuff. We'll keep you posted, and we'll make sure everything's kind of working good out there. So but yeah, so I think that's all the news that I have. Scott, Caleb, did you guys have anything that you wanted to talk about or tidy up?
No, nothing for me. I think you got everything covered.
Cool. All right, and I know we kind of pushed the time a little bit, but cool. All right. Well, I think without further ado, if Shield, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get you started. So you want to text him real quick and see if he's good?
Sure, he's good. I'm going to bring him in now.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Cool.
Welcome, Shield.
Welcome, Shield. How's it going?
Hello, Shield. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Good. Good. I can't complain. It's a really good day today. Really, really nice outside. It looks like the sun's even coming out more. So yeah, it's good. Good to have you. So you want to talk a little bit about yourself and the game that you're making and what you're going to be presenting today?
Yes. Let me share my screen here.
Sure. Let me switch.
So I am Shield. I've been going to college for 5 years or so, and that's basically how long I've been working on my game Stone Accord. It's a 2D platformer, and I have a video here. It's the first video link there, and that gives you like a general idea of what we're going for. Even though it's old footage, it still shows off like the core concepts.
Oh, okay. Would you like me to share that video, or do you want to?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and play that now. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So let me switch over. And there we go. Oh, I see. I had it, and then it switched over to some sort of Galaxy music. I listen to music on YouTube, so. All right. Okay. Cool. Let's go ahead and switch over. I know you're going to see a little bit. Alright, so that's the first video.
All right, so now, can you see my screen?
Let's see. I've got you. Oh, okay, so you are streaming. Okay, so let's get you rolling.
It's blinking on and off for me, which is weird. Let me see if I can try
Okay.
something else.
Cool. We had it there for a sec, and then obviously we got it closed. So yeah, sometimes with
Okay.
Discord. Cool.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Yep.
All right. So this is summer 2021. So that was the video. So what is Stonecorn? As you saw, it's a 2D platformer. It's also Metroidvania. So it has abilities that you gain throughout the game. And it's about a unicorn who's been turned to stone, so he can't move his limbs, so he has to teleport everywhere. And he gains new abilities as he explores the world that he lives in. So that's what Stonecorn is. What has happened this past year in Stonecorn development? Well, not much. So I decided to give a general history of how the game's development has been going on. So I started it in 2015, and then a month later, I joined COG. So pretty much throughout the development of Sonocorn, I've been going to COG meetings, and that is, I think, the number one contributing factor to the fact that this year marks the 5th year of Sonocorn development. No other game project I've ever worked on have I gone 5 years on. So being here at COG has definitely helped me keep motivation and working on the project. And through that time, I took it to GDEX, which was the first convention that I ever showed it at. Since then, I took it to other conventions, and I got some really good feedback there too. And then in May 2018, I got an artist, and then he brought in some other people. And then that's how I got all this lovely artwork that I'm showing right now. And throughout some of the game, you can see some of that art. But most of the game still has the ugly placeholder art that I made. Because the dev team disbanded a year afterwards because there was disagreements and stuff. And then in GDEX Game Jam 2020 last year, I worked on, it was like a 2-week game jam, which is like the first 2-week games I've ever done before. And that was a really good game jam. I made a system during that game jam that I plan on using in Sonocorn in the future, and I intended to get it done before this month, but I ran out of time to integrate it. So, but yeah, that was a really fun game jam. So patch notes. So I have a video coming up that shows some of the key things that I've done so far in the development. But first of all, I'm going to go real quick what happened. So there's a time rewind system, and in that system, there's a thing that happened if you move one object to another level, and then you went to the other side of the world. When you went back to the other side of the world, that object was not where you left it, and that's a big problem. And that was a combination of a whole bunch of different systems, and I did a huge refactoring to make that all work properly, and that took me like a whole month to do. And I also added some placeholder music, and it's still not great, but it adds a lot more atmosphere to the game than I originally thought it would. And it was really nice to hear that. And so I also added some new enemy types. Enemies, entities that move around on their own in the world has been really hard for me because of the way they work in this game. But I added a few more enemy types, so that was really fun to do and to see the results of. And added, I changed how the checkpoints look, and I fully implemented all the abilities, and I added more levels, puzzles, and stuff to the game. So first of all, I put all the abilities and the upgrades. So there's 6 abilities there, each one for a different color. I swapped the ability colors around, so when you watch the video, you might see that it says one color, but it's actually a different color, and that's because I changed the colors to make more sense. And I redesigned several of them. As you can see, some of them don't look anything like their predecessor, and that's because of that, the redesigns. And also added tutorials for each ability, so I don't have to explain to you how the ability works. You can just go into the game and figure it out for yourself. So one thing I pushed really hard for in this version is to make sure that someone can beat the game without me sitting there giving them hints. Because in the previous version, there was tutorials on the first level, but nowhere else in the game. So you either have to test it out, like do a lot of testing to figure out what exactly it does, or I have to tell you. So adding tutorials to the game was a big thing that needed to be done. So here's what the world looks like now. As a general overview, you can't see this in the game because let's see, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but you're like the size of that little dot right there, if you can see it. So it's a pretty big world.
This has definitely changed since the last time I've seen your overworld map.
Yes.
Way much.
One of the main things that makes it look different is that I added a unified skybox. Before, each level had its own rectangle skybox with a different color. And I still plan making the sky different colors in different areas, potentially. But I didn't have time to do that this time. But definitely having a unified skybox made the world feel more whole and less pieced together. Also, in the previous version, I had a PNG that I made in Paint.net. I just sketched it out real quick, and I made that the background. And it didn't look very good, but it was like a general idea of where things would go. But now things are fleshed out so enough that I didn't have to put that in the background anymore. I could just rely on the levels that were already there to show that off. So one thing that I changed, I think I changed this last year or this year, I forget. But I made it so that I decided that the abilities wouldn't be railroaded. So in my favorite game, Ori and the Blind Forest, you're pretty railroaded in that you have to get the abilities in a certain order. And I was originally going to do that too, but I decided against it. And I decided this time I'll let you get the abilities in any order you want. So that means that you can walk this whole world here, the surface level, without getting any abilities at all. So you can go left or right around the world and not get any abilities if you wanted to. I mean, it's a lot easier if you have the abilities, but you don't have to get them to traverse the world entirely. I also added the sun, which you'll see in the video, which makes it gives an explanation to a certain mechanic. And I redesigned the checkpoints. You'll see in the video that the checkpoints used to be this one stone that glowed, but now it's a people have been calling it a cinema reel or a pistol chamber, and I can see why you think that, and I'm gonna have to redesign the sprites for them in the future. But they're supposed to be like spaceships that are no longer working. All right, so now let's see what it looked like back in May 2020. Roll clip.
All right, can do. Hold on.
This video is like 7 minutes long. Thank you for powering me. The cure is on the moon. The Moonicorn guards it. The entrance is west of here.
So although
It is
the
in
abilities
desert.
are the
That is
focus
all
of the
powering
video, you can
down.
see in the background how the levels have also changed as time went on.
You've updated so much. So cool.
Yeah, so I really had to have the abilities in the game and finalized before I could do the levels. Because if I did the level and then I changed the ability, then basically the level will be worthless. Like, that's why some of the levels are kind of barren, because I made a level for them before, but then I changed the ability now that the level's basically unplayable. So once I got the abilities finalized, I went back and did the levels for them to like give you an idea of how they worked and stuff. And it was a lot of fun playing around with the mechanics and going through the levels and using the abilities to get through them. Some of my favorites are the red ability and the orange ability, because of like it's kind of like a flow state that you could get into when you're using them in a certain area, and it's really fun to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we see a lot of these, because you do prototype and play quite a bit, so you're able to use what is it, Parsec, to kind of allow people to play the game on your, like a build that you have on your computer via the via a stream. So it's cool to see a lot of this, like other stuff that you just kind of don't have the ability to get to yet in a short amount of time. And then there's the sun.
Yeah, so the sun was an explanation for why time resets automatically at the end of every cycle. It kind of happened like out of nowhere in the other version, so after adding the sun, it made a lot more sense why that happens. But yeah, testing the game, it's kind of the thing is like I can't just have someone play a certain level with an ability, because if they haven't played the first level, then they don't know how the mechanics work in general. So I have to start them off with the first level.
I like this. Sorry.
Oh, cool. I'm sorry. I'm not watching the screen. What is it?
It's you shooting yourself as like an asteroid around a bit of land or rock. I think it's the red ability.
Oh yeah, that was the core.
The core. Yeah.
I have to say, I played this game with when I got to the core, and it was extremely satisfying figuring out how I could orbit around the core like that using the red ability. It was so much fun.
I was just going to say something else to note is that, especially when you were doing prototypes and play in person, this is all on... Is this all still like on an iPad?
This is on a Surface Pro 4.
Okay. But that's cool.
And yeah, I've been running into some not compatibility issues, but performance issues.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to fix them all.
It's been so long since I've seen my...
But they're there, and I'm not sure if my computer's not powerful enough, or I'm just using a whole bunch of memory. I mean, it could be both.
Yeah. I mean, definitely that kind of stuff you can test and optimize forever. But sometimes once you get to a good spot in your game, then it makes more sense later to optimize. I mean, obviously, if you can do some stuff that you just know in your mind that needs to be optimized now, great. But like a lot of times, sometimes it's just better to wait for some of it a little bit later when you've got some more of the designs and features locked down a bit more.
Yeah, I didn't have time to optimize this time around. I focused on getting the game playable from start to finish without me being there.
That's good. Well, and that's the one thing that I think is really admirable about what you do, Shield. Because when I play the game with you, I can tell that you want to tell me what to do, but a lot of times you just wait. Which, if you're trying to get feedback on the game, especially, like, it's good to see how people work through your game, especially as you're building it. But don't just tell them right off the bat like how to play it or finish it, because you have to imagine that they're going to play this eventually by themselves. So you kind of want to wait for them to get to a point where they can play it by themselves and be able to just go in there and know what to do, hopefully automatically or with a little bit of effort, just kind of problem solving a little bit. And I think that's really great because you get a chance to kind of let people play, and then if they get stuck, you can kind of help them through some of the bigger things. But for the most part, you try to get them to find out on their own, which is great. It's a good mindset to have as a developer. So, but
Yeah,
cool.
that's really hard to do is not talk about it or give away too much. But I find that if there's a tutorial that I should have put in the game that's not there, then I generally like, oh hey, by the way, this is what you're supposed to be able to do, and the game's supposed to tell you that, but it's not in the game yet. And that's what I have done, but I'm going to try not to do that going forward because I have the tutorials in the game now, and if they're not working the way they should be working, then I really need to stay quiet so I can figure that out.
Right. Yep. No, that's really good to have that. And yeah, so cool. Looks really, I mean, like I said, I mean, at least since the last years that you've been working on it, right? There's a lot that you've updated for sure. So what's your plans next in terms of this like with this game? Oh, I guess
That is a very good question.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all changes up to March 2021. So what is next? That was literally my question. You are very psychic. So I made a list of everything that I thought I would probably need to do to get it finished, and I came up with like month block tasks, things I think would take me a whole month to do, possibly. And I came up with like 33 of them. So, using math, that's about 3 years worth of development, which means I'll be done like 2024. But I can already tell you that that's a very rough estimate because one thing that I put in the list was the sun that comes in and kills you at the end of the day. And that was a month-long block task, and that did not take me a whole month to do. So, but there's other things that might take me a lot longer, like there's a bug fixing block. And that's gonna take it's not gonna be like a whole month of bug fixing probably. It's gonna be like a whole bunch of other stuff with bug fixing in between, and some of the things that will happen at the same time, and some will take longer, but that's like my general ideas, maybe 2024, hopefully. So that'll be like 9 years. When I started this, I was hoping for 4 years, but I'm only in build 525, so that's less than 2 years worth of development. So the fact that it's taken me so long to do is mostly because I've been procrastinating on it. But if I don't procrastinate on it, 2024 probably. So I'm going to build the world, make more levels and stuff, and make it add more mechanics and NPCs. There's a new NPC system that I made for the Game Jam back in September, and I plan on adding that to the game. And the reason I'm not using the one I'm currently doing is because it's really hard to make the files for the game where, like, the NPC dialogue. So the new system that I made makes it so much easier. So it's worth taking out the old system, putting the new one in. I also want to add bosses to the game. I'm not sure how yet, but they'll be kind of like a mix between puzzle and action platformer stuff. I'm really excited to delve into that, but I need to do this NPC system first because the bosses really rely on the NPC system. And then event scheduling. So if in the game you can rewind time. So the reason I did that was because I wanted to have events in the game that you can miss, and so because you can miss them, then you can rewind back and see them when you get there at the right time. But you have to have events that can be scheduled and stuff. Currently, there's a few things in the game that kind of qualify as that, but they start when the level loads and not when the game starts. So I have to make a whole system where objects and scenes that are not loaded yet still play through at normal time. I had more menu options. The menu's kind of bare bones right now. I want to increase the number of options in the menu, and also increase the number of controls that are control inputs that are supported, and add it to terrain tool. So I'm using Sprite Shape to make all the terrains in my game, and it's really easy to use, except if you're trying to make tunnels or bridges or something. And the reason is because you have to edit each individual point by itself, and that's really time consuming. So I want to make, like, you know how you like use a paint tool, you just like draw a line, and the line's there. I want to make a tool that does that because I don't think there's one out there yet. I got started already. I just haven't finished it. Also want to like release it too. And memories. It's one of the other mechanics in the game that I haven't added yet, where you find an object that has a backstory item associated with it, and so you interact with it, and it shows you a picture of like what happened in the past, kind of thing, like to give some lore to the game. So that's like the things I'm focusing on for next year, and hopefully get all those done and possibly more. But yeah, that's the idea about what's going on. And that is the end of my talk. Any questions?
Yeah, and I was just gonna add, there's a lot of really cool like opportunities, because I mean I think someone was saying it before that you've got a really unique game, which is awesome. I mean that could also lend to like trying to design and brainstorm different ways of resolving some of the different game design mechanics that you're trying to figure out. Because there's always something to kind of look at to and compare to, but sometimes with some of these other mechanics that are fairly new, like you're kind of pioneering the new layout, which is awesome to see because that doesn't always happen. But I think a lot of people worry about like how long will a game take to make and do this and that. I mean, we had folks who've made games for a long time, and I think that what I would always say, at least for me, when I'm working on a project, like if I'm enjoying the process and I think it's fun and I'm learning stuff and I'm interacting with people and people are like, hey, this is cool, like this is neat, like, and they're having fun with it. It doesn't matter if you made a game at a game jam that took you only 48 hours. It doesn't matter if you made a game and it took you 15 years, 20 years, or whatever. As long as you're having fun with it, that's great. If you want to get to a point where you want to talk about marketing it and selling it and that kind of stuff, I mean, you'll probably need to get some resources and money and influenced into that, which could start to manage that time frame a bit more, right? Because then there's a resource that is, having a certain amount of time or depletion that you'll have to think about. But otherwise, like, we got plenty of folks in our community that are super talented game developers, well, like yourself, Shield, and have learned a lot just by kind of going through the different processes and learning those different mechanics. And again, I would say if you're having fun with that process, go for it. Because, the last thing that I would hate to see is if someone goes in and takes a game and they're like, okay, I have to get it done now, and release it. And then they're like, oh, I just wish I had more time to do this and that. And they're like, I just really didn't have fun with the process. Then, that's kind of, an undesirable effect. You kind of have to balance it. You really have to talk to yourself and see what you're comfortable with. But I would say whether you want to get it out and sold and in there, and maybe it's because you do want to get some experience so you can like talk to game studios or sell something or whatever. And you have to talk about your comfortability, right? Because there is a lot of work in all of it. Whether it's the amount of time you put into it or the amount of effort that you have to put into it. But I definitely see a lot of like growth in this and inspiration and motivation, like all these cool mechanics that, I mean, to me it looks like you're having fun doing this. But I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I don't want to like, pretend to
Yeah,
know. But
Yeah, it is pretty. It's lots of fun doing it. My favorite part is adding new mechanics to the game and adding new systems. I mean, boy, the reason why the previous version didn't have so much level stuff in it was because I like to program so much that I never get around to making the levels. So this year I made a rule. Okay, if you're gonna work on the game on the weekends, no programming, only level design. And
That's
man,
good.
it's been so hard to do that because even when I want to like do like a piece of a level, I have to program something like fix a bug or like write a mechanic for an enemy or another thing in the level, and it's so hard to get myself to not do any programming at all.
Yeah.
But
Man,
yeah, so
I
because of
feel
that
that
rule,
so hardcore.
Hmm.
but yeah, because of that rule, I have all that level stuff that I did. I added a whole bunch of puzzles and levels design stuff, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. Um, and I'm looking forward to doing more on it. Um, I'm really pumped to uh, work on this board. But so one thing that happened is in January, someone released a video of playing the old version. It was like 2 years old, and I was like, "Oh no, they're playing the 2 year old version." So I decided, even though I don't feel this version's ready yet either, because like it doesn't have all that much art, and even in the level that did have art, it doesn't now because I had to redo it, I had to restructure it. But despite that, I'm going to release the current version on itch.io today, so that if someone wants to play it in the future, they can get it on itch.io and not have to play a 2 year old version. So when I'm going to upload an issue again, I don't know. But if it's a year from now, then I'll be really satisfied with the current version. Until I get some really good art assets in there.
And will
Like,
that itch.io link be on your stoneacorn.com website, you think?
yes, it most definitely is, unless the website has broken, which it hasn't last time I checked.
Yeah. I've had that before. Yeah, I think for the most part, um, you know, there's there's something to be said about like releasing so much at a time. Let me see if I can. There we go. And like getting enough to get people interested, but also like getting people stuff updated, especially for these projects that can kind of go on for a while. It's a careful balance, right? Especially if you want to like you want to give someone enough to be like once they play it the full game for the first time, they're like, "Oh, this is cool. Like there's more of this and that." So it's a careful balance. But the cool thing is like I said, everything I've seen so far is like so much more improved from what I've seen in the past, and I totally get you. I'm kind of on the other side where if I'm like working in Unity or something and I've like got this story and this environments and these models, like I just want to do all that stuff, like, and I just like shoot, now I gotta figure out how to program this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. So I've actually been learning a little bit of programming on the side to try to get myself balanced into that. But that's a good thing to talk about because there's a lot of us here who either aren't able to work with teams necessarily or haven't gotten there yet because they're working on the prototype and they're like a solo dev. But time management is very, very important in that because you will get to a point where you might be overwhelmed with how much is needing to be done. But I think what you're talking about, like weekends are for designing and for level building, right? That's a perfect rule that you can put that can help to propel your game forward because it's like thinking about how to construct everything as a whole. So it's not just like, okay, the mechanics, the mechanics, the mechanics, the mechanics. It's the mechanics, and now we see the level, and you kind of get a broader, bigger picture, and then you could probably make better decisions that way too, or give feedback and have better feedback, right? Because people can kind of see the picture a bit more. So, but yeah,
This is actually this is something I've been thinking about a lot myself as well. Is you have what we call kind of system design, and then you have player experience design. And system design focuses more on those like how does the system work? What are the levers that are available? How does all of these things work? And you draft a system design document that you give the engineers, and they start actually implementing it. But building a system doesn't inherently make your game fun or enjoyable or interesting. It's just a system. And it's a whole different kind of thinking through your game to say, okay, if I have these levers, how do I present them to the player so that they can actually enjoy the experience? And you think about, so you have to ask a whole different set of questions, not how does it work, but you ask, how does the player feel about this? What does the player actually do? How are they, like, what are they physically doing to like interact with it through your controller or your keyboard? What are they, um, what does 1 minute of gameplay feel like, and how does that 1 minute translate to the next minute, and what are the decisions the player is having to make? And it's just a whole different set of things that you have to think through. And it's good to recognize that systems and are need to be designed well, but systems in and of themselves don't lead to a great game. It's when those systems are harmonized together into a good beat per beat, minute per minute gameplay experience that starts to really shine. Yeah, it's good. Those are good things to think about. Like that's a really like that's the deep meat of like creating a good game.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shield.
that's one thing I was a roadblock for me early on was that I was designing the system first and not thinking with the gameplay. I was like, oh hey, it'd be really cool if it did this, and I didn't think about like the consequences of that. And even after I made the ability or like the mechanic, it's still I thought, okay, this is cool. This is exactly what I was looking for. But was it fun? And I realized more and more that it wasn't fun. And I was like, okay, well, it's a cool system, it's a cool idea, and on paper it's beautiful and it makes lots of sense. But if it's not fun, then I can't keep it in the game. And that's why I had to replace the red ability, where you tap really quickly to move really fast, and gives you lots of force forward, but it wasn't fun. So it was actually really frustrating, to be honest. So I replaced it with something that was less beautiful design wise on paper, but it was way more fun. And making levels for it was actually a lot easier and a lot more interesting too. So like making something that's fun versus like systematically like complex was definitely worth it.
Yeah, and
And
that's
something
That's it's
something
oh,
that's
yeah. Go
all
ahead,
three of us.
Scott.
Something that's neat is what you describe of like building a system and then applying the question of what makes it fun. Every single game that's been developed, whether it's like a small 2-week hobby project or if it's a 5-year AAA game, goes through that same thing of like, I made something, now how do I make it fun? Right? Or I made something, oh gosh, it's not what I thought it was in application, right? So everybody goes through that same process. It's a very
Right.
neat
or
thing.
the even better, I made something and it's accidentally fun.
And it's
Yeah.
Or
accidentally
like
fun.
it doesn't work the way I thought it was going to, but that's actually more fun.
Well,
And that's one thing I want to throw out here too, is that as a designer, you can get really, or designer or developer, engineer, anything, you can get really into the weeds of the thing you're working on. So much so that you can actually like it can actually be fun, but you're just not you're too in it to see that greater experience. And so when you actually put it in front of people, so this is me plugging prototype and play and doing like prototyping stuff, but if you actually put it in front of people, people will help you find that fun, or
Right.
even tell you, hey, this thing is actually fun, and it's like you just didn't see it because you were so in the weeds of everything. And
Exactly.
so I think that's getting your players in as early as possible to start playing with it, because they'll help you find the things that are fun. And sometimes you'll be surprised by it. Like I doubt that the people who built like Breath of the Wild were like, oh yeah, this magnet mechanic is going to be like generate years worth of content as players try to generate different ways of traversing across the world with mine carts or whatever, you know.
well, and I think it's
Very true.
it's like a design really. I've always thought of design as like not it's not really limited. It's not like, oh, the more work you put into design, the better it is. Now, it does happen that way. It doesn't always mean it will work that way. Um, but I will say that sometimes you can design, like you were saying, Caleb, you can design something simple and it becomes one of the most engaging or fun or exciting things ever. And you're just like, whoa, how did this happen? But you won't really know that until you test it and play it. So I think there's like a design intention versus a design like outcome that is entirely different. That can be entirely different. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. but you won't really know that until you test it out, get feedback. And I think that's what happens is like we get stuck in these realms, both as a designer and as a developer. We kind of get stuck in these realms, and if we don't get out of those and try to switch or try to figure out how it's working, sometimes we see an outcome that's not comparable. It's maybe not exactly how it is going to be perceived by the player. So always think about that as you're developing something or designing something is like, okay, what is my intention? Let's start there. And then let's create it. Let's get into the engine as soon as possible and let's have someone play it. Not me, like, my grandpa or my next door neighbor, someone who doesn't play games, someone just to give me feedback on what it seems to be. Because it's almost like how you perceive the world. Everybody perceives it differently, and so they might approach it and you're like, hey, I never thought about that. I never thought that you would try to kick the lever instead of pull the lever, right? Or you can't find that lever because there's, it's a red color in a red lava room, right? Like you just never see it. So it's like, okay, what can we do with that, right? Do we make it easier? Do we make it green instead of red? Like that kind of stuff is really important. So that's why, like, I'm really glad that Shield, just kind of bringing it back around, that Shield's been able to work with a group like ours. Obviously, there's other groups too, and I've heard them like talk about going to different conventions. But please share your content because that's what's going to be able to give you more feedback, so you can propel it and just figure out what it is that you're making. Almost, it's like what is it that I actually have here, and get inspiration to kind of change it. So cool stuff. Yeah, this is really awesome work. So we're very excited to see the next build. Shield, you have also a Discord, right? That you post
I
stuff
do
from time
have
to
a
time.
Discord. I forgot to link it.
Is
I
it on
guess
your website?
I think it is actually.
Okay. So
That's great.
I know it's in game. There's actually a link in the game to the Discord.
okay, cool.
And
I haven't tested in a while. I think it should
will you
work.
be around? Will you be around after the presentations to talk to people in our Discord?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You can share it then too. So I think that's something to look forward to if you want to hang out with us after this stream. Shield will be there, and he can share his Discord link in our Discord channel.
Yep. So cool.
All right. Thanks, guys. It was nice presenting today.
One last thing to say really quick is Shield usually every month is in our prototype and play events. So if you want to check it out, he usually has a link or through software you can play it on his computer. He's usually always there. So if you want to check it out, please come to whatever Friday that was, the second Friday. I can't remember which one in April, but the second Friday.
April 9th.
Right. Come check it out. I'm sure he will be there.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Yep.
Very cool. Thanks, Shield.
So cool. Well, thanks so much. Good to see it, the improvements, and we'll definitely catch up with you after a while. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move on to our next one. Let's see if this works. Oh, I could just move him. Boop.
I got him.
You got him? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I got him.
Cool. So next coming up is our next presenter, Chris. And he's going to talk a bit about his Kickstarter crowdfunding game. And we'll have him talk and introduce himself a bit. So, cool. Welcome to the Shroud, Chris. Welcome to the group. Welcome to the League of Developers. Welcome to COG. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're able to get to this month's presentation for a lot of good reasons. Always happy to have other developers here, but yeah, talk a little bit about yourself, what you're presenting today, and then a little bit about your game that you're working on.
So, and I admit that I with all the busyness of everything going on, I don't have like a hugely formal presentation. So I hope that's okay.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Yep.
Okay. Now I'm I'm also in the chat, so I can look at the chat too. But right now, what I am working on, first of all, hello everybody, I'm Chris Totten. I'm working on a game called Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends, which is currently on Kickstarter. And some of the things that I can show today include I can talk a bit about. So, for those who don't know, Little Nemo in Slumberland is not just an NES game or a movie from the late 80s, early 90s. It's a comic strip from 1905 by a guy named Winsor McCay, who is like one of the fathers of modern comics and animation. And we, I grew up liking the NES game a lot, and then I learned about the comics and started to like them uh, even more because they are gorgeous and these like amazing pieces of art. So I've made some games with artworks in the public domain before, and I was like, well, what if we did this? And I was talking to some friends at GDC, and we said, let's go for it. So we're working on this 2D platformer that has some light Metroidvania elements to it. And trying to do like this sort of ode and revitalization to Winsor McCay's comics. We're hand animating it with um, classic keyframed animation. We are doing sampling colors from the comic strip so that it captures the look and feel. We've studied his art style, and are trying to reproduce it as much as we mere humans can. Because if you know anything about this guy, he was better than I will ever be at art, in a sort of like supernatural way, and modern. So like there have been other projects like this in the past, usually in comics or animation. So we're the first to really do it with like a video game. So that's what it's about. A bit more about me. I teach at Kent State University, at the Kent, Stark, and Tuscarawas campuses. And I wrote a book about level design a few years ago that people seem to like a lot. And, I make games up in the Cleveland area. So, yeah.
You gotta let me know so you're not on camera. Okay, thank you. All right, I think we might have got stuck.
Okay. I think so too.
Let me see. Oh wait, he's back. Do you got audio there, Chris?
We dropped you for a second, or we lost you for a second.
Yeah.
You back?
Uh-oh.
Well, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you. You probably can't hear us. There you go. That
Okay.
might be best.
Am I back?
You are
yeah.
back. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Well, really quick, one thing is your camera's off if you wanted to turn it back on.
Okay.
Don't have to, but just let you know.
Let me share my. Well, I was about to share my screen anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
You were talking about you're from Cleveland, and you were talking about just your involvement there, and then I think cut off there a little bit.
Okay,
but...
so it wasn't too much. All right, cool. All right. Can people see? Can you all see my stream?
Yep.
Okay.
Got you full screen.
So let me do I have artwork in this one? I can't remember. Image editor. So I'm gonna actually open a Little Nemo strip. to show folks what we're working with. So one of the famous Little Nemo strips is this one that is a walking bed. And so those who haven't read Little Nemo before, basically what usually happens in this comic is there's a boy named Nemo, and he is like, when he goes to sleep, he enters this world of dreams, and the world of dreams, is sometimes magical and wonderful, is sometimes scary, depending on like how the artist is feeling that day. And let me sorry. Let's see, Kickstarter, updates, images. Trying to see if I have a picture of the entire walking bed strip, or if I should. There it is. So here's the walking bed strip. So as you can see, like, these are very highly detailed and rendered scenes, right? The panel composition. So this would have been like an entire page of a newspaper. So think about it in that sort of size. And for a while, before there was like syndication and there was real like controls on how panels were laid out in a newspaper, like, he could do some really experimental stuff. So this one's rather light in some of the formal experimentation. If you go and look these up, there's a website called Comic Strip Library that has a full collection of them. Be forewarned, because this was drawn in like 1905 to 1914. There are some stereotypes that don't quite work very well these days, and we've actually addressed quite a bit of that in our game. But you can see here, as like the bed grows, as its legs get longer, the panels get taller. So he would do stuff like this, and this is a really influential scene. It was even turned into a Google Doodle a few years ago. So what we've done is, this is just one instance where in our game, come on, there you are. This is just one instance in our game where we've taken some of the original material and tried to recreate it. So here I have Blender, and here I have a 3D model of the bed, which we've used as an underlay. So there's a little bit of janky rigging, but as an underlay, just to try to like sort out how a bed like this would move. It does its job. But so we looked at the comic, realized, wait a minute, he's having this bed run like a horse. And that's one thing that this artist would do when he was working, is like, so many people would say, nah, you're just tracing. And he wanted to prove everybody wrong. That was like a point of pride for him. So he would invent like more and more fantastic animals. Or he would draw, he got really into drawing dinosaurs. And one of his more famous works is this animation called Gertie the Dinosaur, which even Walt Disney has said is like, holy cow, yeah, that showed me what animation could be. So, we'll take something like this and model it to work out what this thing would look like in motion. And then we'd start, laying line work on top. We have the outer lines and the inner lines be separate, because one aspect of McKay's work is that it had thick outer lines as an element of this art style called Art Nouveau. So we wanted to recreate that. Then we do the inner details, fill it all in. And then one of the things that we've done here is, we work in rough a lot because we are doing, classic keyframed animation. So, we want to work out like, okay, so how are characters like this going to react to something like this? So this was one of our more complicated animations. So we had the bed, its rough was basically the 3D model. And as you can see, we drew over the 3D model so that like places where the 3D rig was flipping out, we could just, ignore it and draw. But then, we did the characters in roughs, and then turning on their outer and inner lines, we can see, we would do the same sort of like outer line, inner line fill process, and then I can turn off the. And if you go to the Kickstarter and you see, or the YouTube video, you can actually see the this in context in the game. So this is just like one example of us using modern tools to recreate like the visual style and character of this old comic strip. So it's a little bit of like a piece of artistic archaeology and reinterpretation, in addition to like being a cool video game. The animations in Little Nightmares, yeah. So like Little Nightmares has see in the chat, somebody mentioned Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares has like some of this flavor to it, and really, like, that was one thing that this artist was really into, was this sort of dream psychology of exploring, what's it like what happens when characters are in these sort of spooky, surreal places. Because he also had like an accompanying strip for grown-ups where when Nemo would go and dream and have like fun adventures, the grown-up one was like more nightmarish and terrifying. Um,
Oh my!
yeah, and it's really funny
I
when
didn't know
like
that.
yeah, oh yeah, it's called Dream of the Rarebit Fiend. Some of them are really screwed up, and there's some episodes where I'm like, it really feels like maybe he had like a script for one written out and a script for another, and then like maybe he accidentally got them switched, because there's a few Nemos where it's like, this one's screwed up. There's one where like some houses grow legs while Nemo's walking down the street and then start to chase him, and then they just overwhelm him, and then he wakes up. And it's like Lovecraftian, which I love. So is this like rotoscoping using 3D modeling and drawing over it? Yeah, for this case we did, simply because translating. So if you are familiar with the different interpretations of this comic, one of two things happens. One, they either do like a nice slow movement with this bed, and it's like sort of a nice trot, like relaxing trot. Google did that. The movie does that, and we really, or it's just like a still image. So the NES game cover actually just has the bed as a still image, and you can draw it however you want when it's a still image. We really wanted to play around with making it like this fast, out of control gallop, because we have other ideas for this set piece where like maybe you have to chase the bed, and like you fall off of it, and maybe you have to chase the bed or something like that. But yeah, so for this we definitely wanted to do like an underlay to rotoscope and figure out how this would work, because like I can animate a horse. I have animated a horse in the past, but when you get into this thing where it's like, yes, a horse, but you have to figure out what to do with this like long spindly leg of a bed, it's like, okay, I need some help here. Another question is, are the illustrations done in Blender 2 or in another drawing software? So some of the illustrations that are stills, we are doing a lot of the environment art in Photoshop, just so we can work on a big sheet and have the sheet come out at specific sizes. We're doing the animations in Blender, and then some of the illustrations, like our posters and concept art and things like that, we are doing in Photoshop, kind of in a more traditional environment. But yeah, the Blender stuff is all using Blender's like new 2D toolkit. Sounds like a really fun animation challenge. Yeah, it's been really, like I said, it's kind of a piece of digital archaeology as much as it is a game development challenge. So it's been really neat. Like I said, I don't have like a hugely formal presentation.
I've got a question.
Yeah, if people want to do some Q&A, I'm like more than open to do Q&A.
Yeah, so obviously you've written some books on level design, which is super cool. And one of the things I'm curious about is what challenges are you finding that this particular art style uh, and how you design your levels that you're trying to have to kind of think outside of the box or like do interesting things with. I'm curious kind of how that's impacted your level design working with this particular style.
Um, so what we're doing right now, I'm going to stop streaming. And then I'll shut down this, don't save. And then I'll open up Unity so that you can see some of our tools for that. So we're using a plugin called Far 2D, FERR 2D. And it's a terrain tool, like a 2D terrain tool. And it's been really handy because a lot of people compare it to like Rayman, what Rayman is doing with some of its tiling of assets. So McKay used a lot of like architecture, and if you go on, I've actually written a few short articles on it in our Kickstarter updates. So that's one of the things with our Kickstarter we've like really tried to do is be informative and give people like an educational look inside of the game dev process, both for transparency, but also it's actually been kind of like a nice release for me to focus on what's been important in the project to us and not just be like a marketing squawk box all the time. But you know, we would look at something like Winsor McKay's work, and it features because it was drawn like I don't know 12 years or so after the like Chicago World's Fair that featured all that like neoclassical stuff with like all the repeating columns and everything. So that's like really in deep in the environments of this like dream world, right? So we've tried to embody some of that in how we build like our level design assets, which really just means that we have great excuses to use tiling and repetitive like architectural elements, which is nice. Come on, Unity, you can do it. There we go. So, and I'm
You just have to push it a little bit.
right,
Tell them who's boss.
basically, yeah.
Refreshing that asset database every time.
Yeah.
Really, Unity, what are you doing? Are you only seeing? Why are you only
We've
seeing
noticed
the?
with Unity, if especially in Discord, if you it works better if you share your entire screen.
Okay, we're gonna do
If you're
that.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, no, I'll share the.
Yeah, it's something about Discord, and I don't think Discord is the only thing, but like it understands Unity as almost like however many windows you use to create stuff in, it sees those as separate windows and tries to focus on those.
That's much better.
Yeah.
It's
So
weird.
here's Slumberland.
That's cool.
Nice. That's very
Yeah,
nice.
and like I mean, you're all game developers. I can show that this is also a little bit of an artifice for the
What?
video.
It's all magic.
No, the magic is
All
ruined.
magic. Yeah.
No, I was actually explaining. I was explaining to Shield beforehand when we were in the green room. I'm like, you know, we made enough of the game to get the video and to get our prototypes of all of these characters like set up so we can like shoot footage. And then in getting the prototype set up, we were like, okay, well now we should just completely tear these down to the studs and rebuild them completely so that we can actually like they can be nice.
Yeah.
So that's what we're in the process of doing now, and it's made for some interesting discussions with backers. Most of our backers are actually really cool with that. Like once we explain how that works, they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." I'm like, "Yeah, no, Nemo feels better now," and that gets them excited. Like it feels better to use the characters, but you know, yeah, not everybody realizes that games take time and money to produce. It's
And
Well, we had
like
the
you're
same
describing iterations too.
we had the same issue with, I wouldn't say issue, I think it's like a process, I would rather say, because it's like you first prototype a game out, you just want to see what it looks like, get your ideas out down on paper, make it interactive. And both of the games that we've worked on or are working on, we had to completely redesign the prototype. Like it's
Mhm.
90% not even the same thing anymore. I mean, it looks similar, but this architecture and structure is entirely different, and it's better because of it, way better. And
Oh
so
yeah,
you
well,
just learn stuff, right?
yeah,
So
and I mean it's funny because like we do live dev streams on Saturday nights. Ben does,
oh cool.
and you know he's just been like rebuilding the characters, and Nemo, like that new Nemo is basically just like a little pink cube right now.
Yeah.
But when you put them next to each other, like the pink cube is way snappier, and I think like it's going to make platforming, I think, a little more precise and user friendly. So we're using this Far2D terrain library. What are you doing? And what's cool about it is that like I can make a terrain surface out of this like this set of columns, and then I can just like stretch it, and it knows to
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
repeat the image. Yeah. So
Very cool.
if I go into this, let's see what
Yeah,
this one is.
that kind of reminds me of Houdini. It's kind of like a procedural
Yeah.
creation tool. That's really cool.
Oh, so this is actually
Oh,
like
you slice it up. That's really neat.
yeah. So
I
like
see it.
this is actually
Nice.
funny enough. This is the I totally meant to open the exact one I was playing around with.
I didn't even
But,
notice,
like-
to be honest, but I get the concept. So it's like 3 pieces.
Yeah, so like there's an end and a middle, and and so you can like set it up to be a middle with 2 ends, and you can even have like inner caps if you
cool.
want. Like when we do something like these pieces, we can
Whoa.
it does
Look
this
at
weird
that.
thing where stuff peeks through. I can't figure
Oh,
out
is that a layer thing?
That looks like
Yeah,
layering.
that's
right?
a render layering thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. But I can do
Look
that.
at that.
That is
Wow.
wild.
That's entirely
Nice.
different.
Dude.
Nicely done.
Yeah. So
wow.
like, we didn't build it. This is just something on the asset store. So everybody, I've been trying to like sell it up because it's been useful, and like we happen to
What's that
know the
asset
guy that
again?
made it.
Yeah.
What?
Look at
We happen
What's
to
the
know
name
the
of that
guy.
asset again?
It's called Fair2D, FERR2D. The only challenge that it's really provided us is that because its physics are a very particular way, it doesn't always play nice with like Unity's default physics. So we've had to roll a few custom things. But anyway, besides being an advertisement for that particular plugin, you can see where like something like this has been made it really nice to be able to make these like sprawling sort of architectural pieces with like much less effort than I would have had to FER2D than if I was like hand drawing all these. So that's been a nice time saver and a way to actually like produce this person's like really amazing drawing. And then as the project continues, what we are going to do is find ways to level design in spaces where like maybe you're kind of going along, and then you actually get like this big perspective vista of the world around you or something like that. So we didn't have time to produce anything like that for the video, but we are gonna definitely like try to get some of that into the game as it when it is more finalized.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, just the fact that you see those, I forget what those called, but the facade of the lip of the building, like being able to lock onto the terrain that way when you like add in different points to it is really impressive.
Yeah, and again, like I can't take credit for the tool. I just it's been a little.
It's a good find. I mean, and that's the thing is like a lot of people I think sometimes are like, well, if I have this in the game, then my game isn't as impressive. Like sometimes you have to, and a lot of times those tools tend to be like you use them, and like you said, you're fighting with some of the collision points that Unity has by standard. Like you're gonna have to still get over some of those obstacles that are just inherently gonna happen. So I mean, you're gonna have to like go over some of these obstacles that maybe you wouldn't have if you built from the ground up, but also maybe you save some time by starting here at least and moving beyond that. Because I mean, a lot of game studios, big and small, do use assets that are already out there. They'll just buy them, whether it's 3D models or programming scripts or whatever, and then they still have to kind of modify them to fit their game. But at least it helps them get kind of a bit of a step forward, right? Or at least an
Yeah.
idea what they want to do.
Well, and we've all been doing this long enough that we have no worries about doing this. Our feeling is just like, all right, starting a new project. What do we need to do? Okay, let's download all these libraries. It's I mean, we did a whole thing on that. You know, when Ben, so my collaborator Ben Cole, Adrian Sandoval, one of my coworkers, Tim Fritz, he's been helping us out with some of our pipeline management for the art. And then we've also had like some student helpers through our like internship course. We're actually like allowed to have students help through, like research projects and things like that. So we've had, some assistance there, but when Ben set up started using this tool, it was very much like, all right, I have the background turned off. Usually it has like a different background, but
It looks cool.
Nemo, and he can
Oh,
fly.
I love that. I love the flying.
Nice.
But so one of the other things that I wanted to show off is that like we also have a camera system where you can break out the level into these rooms
That's
and then
cool.
use that to control. And now we have like kind of a Metroidvania feel.
Well, it kind of feels like a
Is that
story.
homegrown, or are you using a tool?
What?
Is that homegrown, or are you using a third-party library?
That's called Pro Camera 2D.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's same kind of. Let me see if Peony is working right. She's working okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we can do with the camera. I'm on a keyboard. I don't know where I think one of my kids ran off with my controller. So I'm not about to go and do the platformy section.
That's fine.
Without my controller.
But that's really cool because it almost makes it feel like those sections of the level are like a comic book strip. Like they're like different sections you would read. It's really neat. I like that.
Yeah, because when we go into that's why I wanted to turn that level on. And again, same thing. You can see where like the level chunks are these, pieces of architecture that, are shaped like the terrain. But, I can go down and actually define these rooms. And here's all the rooms, like room 1, room 2. And then you see the red lines here. Oh, it's actually showing you the numbers.
Oh, that's cool.
So that we
That's
can actually,
great.
Yeah. So
and you can link them all together. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's how we've been. So yeah, these doors they do nothing. They're art. They're just sprites. But that's how we've been doing like our level design and our artwork is, drawing things to look like stuff that would occur in McKay, and then basically like it's a little bit of artistic, just I don't know what you'd call it, like mental work, just to be like, okay, we have to construct it in this way to get this like seamless look. But then once we get the seamless look, we can go and do this stuff with the terrain editor, and it just takes care of a lot for us. Again, to get that architecture style, and then add in like all our little fun surprises and things like that. A lot of folks have been asking like, oh, well, why can't you just recreate the Capcom game? And I'm like, well, because Capcom owns the Capcom game. So we cannot recreate Capcom's work, but we can put lots of references. Here's a reference. There's a salamander. You will be able to feed it candy.
There you go. That is a good reference. Yeah.
Well, we've decided that we're like, oh, well, candy is just money in Slumberland for little Nemo because he's 7. So of course, like candy is what he thinks of as like really valuable. There's our background.
Perfect sense to me.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna ask because you were talking about that when we were doing our testing. Is like licensing wise, like you have the ability to use this because you're focusing on the comic version uh, of the style, look, and feel, and that's really what's
Mhm.
public domain at this point because it's so old. But also, like with the other tools that you're using, if those actually go into the game, are those licensings that you would need to put in there as well? Like what are things that you do to kind of keep track of all that stuff, and what have you done in terms of like the Capcom version versus the the version that you're making of the comic book? Like what are things that you guys have done previously to kind of make sure that you're all square? 'Cause that might be valuable for people looking into that kind of stuff.
Um, when you're making references or parody to something, like you can actually get away with quite a bit. Um, like feeding candy to animals, but the animals are like our own art, and there's nothing about feeding candy to animals that like Capcom owns. Uh, so we're doing our, and I just posted a thing. I hope you can still see it, but I just posted a thing on my screen that's like I've done a presentation on using the public domain.
Yep.
So I actually have like the rules more or less of like if a work is from a certain era, when is it public domain? Um, so in terms of something like the Capcom game, you know, we are not recreating levels. Some of the settings are the same. Like there's a mushroom forest, but that's because there's a mushroom forest in McKay. That's not because we're using the mushroom forest from the Capcom game. We're staying away from its music. Nemo is not going to put on animal suits. And so we're trying to keep away from anything that could be construed as like, we are using what Capcom built. Again, in terms of parody, uh, you can do something like Mel Brooks can do something like Alien, the Alien thing in his movie because parody is protected under intellectual property law. So that we're having a mechanic that's essentially like an upgrade shop where Nemo will be able to feed candy to the animals. Like we're kind of squared away there. We're not directly recreating anything that anybody else owns on those sections. So this is something that it's funny in the game industry. I don't know where it comes from. I always theorize that maybe it's because it's so tech heavy, and the word like there's so much patent and and focus in like the tech world, but in the art world, like people do this all the time. So it is one of those things where it's like people just make all these references to each other's work, and it happens. So yeah, but we're trying to make sure that most things that we're doing can be tied back to the comic. Or again, like I made the frog, like on the Kickstarter page, there is a frog, and the frog is another example of character you'll feed candy to. But that frog is so beyond the frog in the NES game that like it nods to it, but you couldn't come back and say like, oh, well, that's our frog. It's like, no, it's not. It's my frog.
Well, the funny thing, I wonder when they were making that NES game, if it wasn't in the public domain back then because of its age, if they had to really make their like redesign everything almost like a parody of, but like you know,
I always kind of wondered if they didn't just have like some idea of like, wouldn't it be cool to have a game where you can get into animals and they could be your friend suits, and um then they were just like, oh well, this movie company TMS wants us to, because if you see the title screen of it, it says like copyright TMS, so they were working with the movie
oh okay,
very closely. And so they were like, well, the movie company wants us to make this game. So I always kind of wonder if they didn't just have this idea sitting around and then we're like, let's use it here.
Yeah. Huh. Because it is different. It's not like it's the same movie or same game. It's more like you said, the homage to the comic book, really letting the artwork kind of shine in that regard. So
Yeah. And again, like we've been asked, and you know, we always tell people, because some people are like, well, I want this. It's like, well, we legally can't do that for you.
yeah,
Because it's like, you know, really I just fall back on the Capcom game is copyrighted, and it's very hard to patent. I mean, you guys probably know this. It's very hard to patent or copyright game mechanics.
Right.
Unless you are doing something somehow that is absolutely new, and usually that involves some piece of technology or something.
Or hardware.
But yeah, or hardware. But like we really
Doesn't stop
didn't,
people from trying.
yeah, like we really didn't want to step on any toes. So we were like, well, Little Nemo, fine. But you know, we didn't want to get into that with the mechanics of the Capcom game and then suddenly have somebody sniffing around. This truly is like, you know, let's take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and kind of, you know, in a more normal game play, more normal game design situation. And then we're kind of, again, keeping everything very referential, and not specific. I do see some questions coming in the chat. Are we going to have procedurally generated levels? No, we are going for a more authored level experience, at this time. I always hesitate to use the term Metroidvania for our game because it is going to be a little bit, it's not going to be one continuous world. It's going to be, more Shantae or Demon's Crest style, where it's like explorable with different abilities, but you come and go from them, through like a hub. But you know, we want to have that sort of authored Metroidvania experience. Art style is really cool. Thank you. I'd like to buy these shoes, please. Let's see. Are we adding to the lore of the original IP? Yes, we are. And we're doing that for several reasons. One, I mentioned that the original Little Nemo comic has some like not great, you know,
1905
Rachel,
stereotypes.
yeah, exactly, like 1905 stereotypes. So we are adding elements, like we're adding characters. Peony, you know, one of our characters, she is a completely new character. We worked with a BIPOC artist to, we basically said like, here, help us design somebody, and she did a fantastic job. So you know, there's a new character. That character involved like having new backstory elements. So she's kind of like a, you know, royal guard type character. So we've fleshed out some of that more. You know, these new characters like the frog and like the lizard, they're going to be, you know, they're new entities that we've designed. The bad guys are new entities we've designed. Like one of them is more closely based on a character from Winsor McKay's later comics with Little Nemo, but we've took his design and just kind of like rolled with it. We're like, okay, well, what else can we do with this seeming like devil? I mean, it's a magician who looks like a devil and has like very specific elements of his design. So it's like, all right, let's kind of roll downhill with this and see where it goes. So we've added those sorts of things. That happened. Written IP added later in the process. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're adding stuff with our own ideas simply because that's kind of what you do. You know, and the thing about the original comics is that they're like, McKay was not interested in a ton of continuity, so he would just drop these like lore bombs and then ignore them. Like Flip the clown is the son of the sun, and that is never explored. Like they do this thing where he like, when he's Nemo's frenemy in early in the, like not quite his friend yet, if like somebody's mean to him, he'll call his uncle, who is the dawn, and then they'll ride through, and then the sun will come up, and then the dream is over. So he basically just like will casually nuke Slumberland from time to time, and that is never addressed except for like the beginning comment. That is never addressed again once he joins the team, and it's like, huh. So we've like started talking to a narrative designer friend of ours, and we're like, that's one of the things we're gonna talk to her about, is like, so Flip, let's talk about him. Because I mean, I've said in the past, I'm like, if Little Nemo were more popular, like Wizard of Oz, you'd have a Wicked, but for Flip. Just like with like a different version. Lore bombs, yeah. Dream logic for sure. So yeah.
Cool. Well, looks like our stream's getting a little shaky, but I want it to get a chance. I'm at the very least going to post it in the chat channel, but I was interested in seeing if we wanted to stream your video. At the very least, I'll put it here in case it doesn't come out great, but if you got the chance, maybe we can watch the video and take a look at what the gameplay looks like.
Sure. And I can stop my stream if that helps.
It might. I don't know. Sometimes it's like, hey, it's poor, and then it's like it's fine. But yeah, let me switch over. And that would be here. Let me see.
And I did post a link to the Kickstarter earlier.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, as of right now, we are less than 9,000 away from, and we have 4 days left.
I know.
So
That's great.
we're doing pretty
it's
well.
going up. It's going up.
Yeah, like the pace is going up. I'm not so worried about
Hi there.
9K.
Happy Friday, everybody.
As I am about other amounts of money that are more than 9.
Yeah, I mean, we were like that, I think, with one of our Kickstarters one time, and then if you can get it in front of like a YouTuber or something like that, like you can easily knock that out. And actually, a lot of times when these are pretty close, sometimes Kickstarter will actually just push it to the front page to get it all the way through. But yeah, I mean that's all the more reason if you like this kind of game and you think this is something that you'd be interested in, definitely do check it out. There's a lot of really cool stuff on this page that we've got linked up. A lot of cool animations about what they're doing. But
yeah, because we've done just we packed the page with just like a ton of art.
Yeah,
and we really wanted to because one of the things with Kickstarters is that and I don't know what everybody in the group's experience with like doing them is that it's not the hot thing it once was, and at times I think even feels like it puts you at a disadvantage, because like the pluses are you're getting in front of a community, you're building a community. There's definitely a air of like, this is a real project when you put it up on Kickstarter that was not there when it is a thing that you're posting on like Screenshot Saturday. And that's not to say that like everything we post on Screenshot Saturday is not real. It is very much real, but like external viewers are suddenly like, ooh, you know, it adds this other. I mean, it's like when you put a title screen on your game project, it suddenly feels like, ah, my game, instead of, you know, this Unity build that I'm yelling at. So it's yeah, it's definitely it's useful for that. The where it doesn't get useful is that like everybody's burned from, you know, your Mighty Number Nines and other projects that didn't end up so well, and it really puts a lot on the Kickstarter creator to prove that you're for real and that you've produced a lot and you can produce a lot. So that's why, I mean, we're not in a state where we can have a demo yet. And I think, like, you know, everybody's like, well, why don't you have a demo? It's like, well, because this is a nights and weekends project. And, you know, you're having a Kickstarter can make it feel like an uphill battle, but it's like, if you're prepared, you can at least get around that. And then, you know, we had some lucky breaks. We had a guy at PC Game Zen really be like, no, I am writing about this. And he was like a pest to his editors, and a story got hit up. And then we've got some podcasters that were super into it. You know, and then the other thing that's been interesting is just like with this project in particular, we thought that our marketing was going to be Capcom game all the time. Like, look at this frog we made and all this other stuff. And there was some interest from that for sure, but the things that have really been taking off are actually the ones that are like the art history of it, which, like, for me, who's more in, I mean, I love the Capcom game, but that's not why I wanted to make this project. You know, we really wanted to, like, for me, who's doing this kind of as his academic thing too, that's been a really huge part of this, is like, all right, well, people are responding to the craft of it and the history of it, not just the like, oh, I remember that game. And a lot of people have actually been like, oh, you showed me that there are comics and those comics are cool. So do we playable demo? Not right now, because we ripped the game apart and are putting it back together. Enemies in the background with foreground attacks. Yeah, we're doing that with those forest giants, which is another like scene from the comic. So, I mean, really, the other thing that we're communicating to people is that, like you pointed out about the NES game, not a lot of it is from the comic, and that's because like an NES game probably could not do some of what McKay was doing, right? But there's just so much there that it's like, why would you want, with the modern tools we have, like, just a remake of that? Like, we could go further than that. We can have there be like these dragons and giants and all this other stuff, you know, that we're really excited to put in.
Anything that you can dream of.
Yeah.
Game dev magic.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the fun thing with talking. That's the fun thing talking with like Wayne Strange, who's doing our soundtrack, where it's like, so what kind of genre are you thinking? It's like, well, it's a dream. So there's like probably the expected thing, and then I don't know, let's go nuts. So we've been bringing in a lot of other stuff, and like we've got Mega Ran on the soundtrack, which is super exciting. And you know, because he's a little Nemo fan, and he was like, what can I do to be part of this? And we, you know, worked it out, and he's going to be on the soundtrack.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I was curious, since you're trying to be influenced on the comic, which I think is very, very cool, by the way. Have you talked to anyone at the Billy Ireland Comic Museum?
Very briefly. It's been hard to get a consistent conversation going, but I've made contact a few times. This month has been just a mess of correspondence. So, you know, but yeah, I'm gonna really try to double down on, once this is hopefully funded, knock on wood. I don't want to count my chickens too early, but you know, once this is funded, I really want to double down on those efforts, because again, like, part of what I'm writing, even in our Kickstarter updates, is like the basis for stuff that I want to do in a more academic sense. And I actually, mentioning museums, like I have a lot of experience working with museums on game stuff.
Cool.
Like I co-founded the Smithsonian American Art Museum Arcade in DC.
Cool.
Then I also kind of like took that type of event and made one with the Akron Art Museum for Game Fest Akron.
I remember that.
Yeah. So like, working with a museum like Billy Ireland is something I'm really excited for because trying to get in and work with them.
I just figured that there would be some experts there that you could talk to really kind of help shape that influence that you're talking about. I figured there'd be somebody at least fun to talk to there.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm really interested too in, because like my last game, which was based on Don Quixote, also public domain. It's a tabletop game, but like I approached like scholars who write about that and be like, hey, can you take a look and tell me what you think? And that was really important because you can do whatever you want with a public domain piece of intellectual property, but because of what I do as my day job, my approach tends to be like, I want to make this something that both honors the intellectual property, but comments on the intellectual property and reinterprets it and make that reinterpretation important in how we approach it. And, again, so it's like, yeah, people have to want to buy it, but it should also impress the scholar types, because like theoretically I could make Little Nemo slot machine, but I don't want it. I want to make something that would pique somebody's interest who knows about the comic. And we've actually had like comic PhDs commenting on our game, and they're backing our game, and there's an ongoing academic project on Twitter right now called Welcome to Slumberland that's been like, we've had a nice back and forth throughout this process, because they are doing daily postings of the comic with interpretive text, like analyzing the comic, and then I'm making the game. So we've been like, I've actually written a few like guest threads for them, simply because like it's been a way it's like another way to, they write the academic paper on it, I'm making the academic game on it that also happens to be a cool indie game.
That's very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of funny that you've got talked about a slot machine is like what Monopoly's become, right? Because Monopoly, they have so many versions, but none of it really makes it a fun game necessarily. I would probably argue that to my grave. But it's kind of it's unique. It's interesting sometimes when you see like the newest film come out and there's a Monopoly version of it, but it's not really anything new. It's not really pushing the boundaries, which I almost feel like if it's public domain, it's kind of one of the cool things you can do.
Well, and it's like, what was it? I saw an ad for like Wizard of Oz slot machine. Wizard of Oz is public domain.
Yeah.
Like you cannot have. Now they've licensed it with Warner Brothers, who now owns the MGM movie. So like you cannot, and there's like things you can't use. Like I think The Witch is a very particular shade of green, so you cannot use that shade of green.
Yeah.
And it cannot be the ruby slippers. It has to be the silver slippers from the book.
Right.
But like it's completely public domain. Anybody could make an Oz game. Anybody could make a Moby Dick game or a Great Gatsby game.
Great Gatsby, obviously. Yeah, I was just gonna say that just came out.
and there was a Great Gatsby game in 2009 that was just like a little flash game, but now that's dead. So somebody has to make a new one.
There you go. Yeah.
Working on yeah. So yeah, that's Little Nemo.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, sweet.
Nice
were there any other questions that we missed, Scott, Caleb, or I guess even you, Chris, that we might have skimmed over? So does working on this game affect your dreams at night? Asked Shield.
Not really. Like I'm not having dreams about Little Nemo. Ironically.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been not sleeping as well because like I will sleep very lightly and then get up and then check my phone to check the Kickstarter.
Yes, I remember
that's what I was wondering.
I
Do you
remember
have
that.
dreams of deadlines and of
mostly
broken code and
well, again, like, you know, I had to do a few takes of a few things because of like, again, the game is we're rebuilding some of the characters from scratch and it's like, oh no, Flip did this, oops. So
Flip didn't flip. He was supposed to
right,
flip.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, cool. Well, it looks, I mean, obviously they got a lot of feedback from the crowd that it looks really awesome. It sounds like a really cool idea. Very excited about this game. Um, you know, we're going to do what we can to help promote it even more. Like I said, maybe we can even do like a news thing on a COG website. But you know, it's really neat to see stuff like this kind of come through the community because I mean, there's a lot of real, like as a lot of people have been saying, I'm just kind of gobbling up all the words from the chat, but there's a lot of polish to this as well, no matter which way you slice it. That is really cool to see within our own like ecosystem. I know you guys are, you know, from Cleveland, but I mean, it's really cool to see this stuff. Oh, I know. Well, we've invited people from outside the state too, but it's great to have you along because you can kind of break down into the minutia of like, you know, your process in Blender versus your process in Unity and your thought processes of like breaking down the foundation, building it back up, and talk about design and intellectual property. All that kind of background stuff is really cool to see under the hood because I mean it's a lot of it's just learning it sometimes. Like some of it is you kind of know a little bit about it as you grow, but a lot of it's just like not even just making the game, but how do you market it, right? Like what's the best time, what's the best place?
Yeah, and again, like we thought it was going to be one thing, and like the retro gaming audience has certainly been super good to us. Like we got lucky early on with an appearance on Pat the NES Punk's podcast, the completely useless podcast, and then yesterday or Wednesday night, but it was posted yesterday. I did an interview on SNES Drunk and NES Friends podcast. Gotta love all these YouTube names that were clearly made when people were like in college that people are like just
Silver Fox 85.
Yeah.
Something like
Goku Vegeta, something.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's you know, I was on those, so like we've gotten support from those audiences for sure, but like, you know, even the Drunk Friend podcast that I was on the other day, like that went up yesterday, like they asked me a little bit about the NES game, but everything was about this like the art process and the history and things like that. So that was I mean that's been really cool that it's been resonating with people. Again, except for a few people that are like, well, I want the NES game. It's like, well, then go play Super Mario Odyssey.
I mean, it's still you know, nevertheless, like I know it's not necessarily a homage to that, but it's still a really cool platformer game. And I think that's the other thing too that you're also offering. It's not just like a cinematography like realm of like a video game or something like that. It's also like you have some cool mechanics of like riding a bed versus like flying through the air versus walking on different platforms. Like, and that's the neat thing too is thinking about that. That's a homage to the comic books of the imagination, which really kind of leads to neat game design mechanics.
We were like, well, and again, we've been trying to so like some of our game we wanted to like it's like, okay, well this game's got to be good. So we were looking at like little Samson for the character swapping. Again, like then Demon's Crest got into the DNA of it, and the Shantae, you know, all this blend of stuff, and it just became this sort of like stew of mini Metroidvania with like character forms. That's, you know, been a lot of fun to experiment with, because like at first Flip did not have his grapple, and then Ben was just like, I made this, what do you think? We're like, cool. So yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I think we got through all the questions, but yeah, it looks great. I would say Yeah, we got some time. I think if we want to answer any more questions, if you happen to be around, if not, it's no big deal. But
I might actually need to get going.
Yep.
Because I'm also realizing it's like 3:20, and I'm
yeah, I know. But if you want to, we've got the Kickstarter page. I'm sure Chris is really active in there right now. And we've got his Discord too. If you got questions throughout the day, throughout the weeks, like I said, we've got a couple more days on this. So if you are interested, back it. If anything, just share it. That's the best way to get it out there.
Yep.
If you think someone on Facebook or Twitter or something like that might find it interesting, if you know a YouTuber, get it out there because they're pretty close. I mean, I think at the very least, like, it'd be great to get this funded and get it started to see where else it can go. But if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to Chris or us. We can get you in contact with him too. And then
and
yeah,
I'm on Twitter at Totter TOTTER87, or at my studio is Pie for Breakfast Studios, which its Twitter is PFB Studios at on Twitter. So I'm active on both. I'm more active on the Totter 87 one, but I'm on both right now because I have just TweetDeck hooked up so that I can do like I'm like Ozymandias in The Watchmen. Like I have a thing just to see like if anybody's tweeting about Little Nemo. But yep.
And there we go. Cool.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
And thanks for coming by. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we'll wrap this up, and then we'll jump into the channel. But thanks for having us or being a guest in us. Us obviously will keep in contact, see how things go, and we'll try to promote more of the project. So cool. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. So we're gonna go ahead and move into the end part. So I'll go ahead and move you back into. Yep, cool. Very quick on the money. Cool. All right. That concludes our game dev showcase for today. Thanks everybody for coming by. We appreciate everybody's conversations and just kind of hanging out with us for today. As I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and jump into the general channel. So if you're in our Discord, which we sent out our link to, it's just we're going to jump into this general voice channel. If you want to hang out with us for another couple of minutes, we'll be here till 4. And yeah, if our presenters are still hanging out, they can stop by. If you just want to talk to us, you can talk to us. We'd love to hear you more than we'd like to hear ourselves. So thanks for stopping by. We'll go ahead and cut this now, and then we'll be hanging out again soon. So just as a reminder, our next event is our Prototype and Play, which is April 9th on a Friday from 6 to 9. If you have something you want to showcase, anything at all that's game dev related, let us know. We'll get you the Discord role, we'll get you a voice channel, we'll get you a text channel. And if you were here last, or I guess this month, for Prototype and Play, and you want to do it again, let us know too, and we'll keep your channel up. Because we usually wipe those throughout, usually about a couple days before, maybe a week before the Prototype and Play. So let us know, and we'll keep it up. Happy to have it. But if nothing else, and we don't see you, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and you have a great rest of your weekend. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys later.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Talk to you.
Cheers,
Yeah.
everyone.
Cheers. Yeah.